Well, welcome everybody. This is PnP Weekly episode 253. It is 10th of June. We're heading to a summer vacation period in Northern Hemisphere, which is great. Can't wait to have finally some time off. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in Microsoft 365 platform areas, and with me as a co-host is
Hey everybody, my name is Waldek Mastykarz, and I am developer advocate for Microsoft 365 at Microsoft.
Excellent. So in the PnP Weekly, let's talk about the latest on Microsoft 365 and related technologies, and we always typically have a visitor, and this time the visitor is
all the way from the other side of the world for us. Yes. Daniel Anderson. He is an MVP based in Australia, and we had a great chat about his journey, his experience with apparently the thing that I learned, he's been an MVP for a long time, and he's been around for even longer. So we had a great chat about everything that he's seen along the way, how things evolved, how things change, what's his take on AI and the current state of things. So without further ado, let's jump to the interview.
Let's jump to the interview indeed. Excellent. Let's get moving on the PnP Weekly. I think we recapped already in the intro, episode 253. We'll get to 500 at some point.
We're going to miss somewhere 250 episodes along the way.
Now, what we should be doing is, season 10, episode 11, or episode 4, and then season 11. That then it exaggerates.
We can also count episodes in Chinese moon.
That's great. Anyway, so let's focus on our guest today. A bit distracted. Sorry for that, Daniel. So, and Daniel is joining with us on the PnP Weekly. So, Daniel, let's start with basics. Who are you, and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, g'day. Well, welcome myself into the studio, I guess. So I'm sitting on the other side, and I'm with two people that only need to go by one name, Waldek and Vesa. So are only both known by one name. So, but yes, my name is Daniel Anderson, Microsoft MVP from down here in Melbourne, Australia. So yeah, obviously, being an MVP and being part of the amazing community that it is, really good to have a chat. You guys are doing some amazing stuff in the community as well. So it's going to be a good chat.
Yep, looking forward. Now, let's go a bit behind of the scenes. So what do you actually do as a living? What's your day-to-day work like? You said that you flew in from Sydney today. Was that a business trip, or what kind of things do you actually do?
Yeah, it was. So I'm an M365 consultant, doing a lot of obviously AI, Copilot stuff at the moment. But my background is in SharePoint. So I've been working in SharePoint for a very long time. Started out as a common type of story, being thrown this thing called SharePoint, and in a local school actually down here on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. So. Look, I've been working in that space for a long time. Education being a primary industry early on, and then moved into the cloud and SharePoint Online and that side of things. Teams has come on board, so really helping organisations make the most out of Microsoft 365 and really taking the technology side of things a little bit out of the equation and just working on, trying to solve business problems by utilizing the platform.
Yep.
You've been around for a while. Like, as you said, you started with SharePoint. Probably back then it was on premises, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you see the whole change from on-premises servers, setting up farms, AAD, forest deployments, to going to the cloud, and where we are now?
Well, how much easier? I mean, to be honest, I haven't worked with an on-prem environment for such a long time. I mean, it's
what is on-prem?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
that's right. And I remember looking at the first time we really saw SharePoint Online and thinking how much easier is this going to be? I did have a lot of colleagues that kind of thought, well, is that going to put me out of a job? What am I going to need to do now? I don't have to, do upgrades or patch servers or run those CU updates, but how good is it not having to, right?
Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly. The memories of upgrading a customer farm on Sunday afternoon because you cannot do that on a weekday because of the business, and then Sunday afternoon crossing the fingers, be like, please be successful. And it never
that's
worked.
right. And
So,
or the bad idea of doing it on a Friday afternoon or a Friday night, and then
yes.
The last thing you want to do before you go home, I am not going home.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So that's at least all of that operational stuff is now offloaded. But how do you see the impact for the ecosystem? Did these people actually find a new place? So who were concerned? Because it seems to be that everybody did find one way or another a new, viable job and stayed in the business.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, their roles just changed, right? They now had time to actually build some really good outcomes rather than having to I won't say we'll say waste time, but manage server infrastructure and that side of things. You could focus a lot more on getting requirements and then actually utilizing SharePoint itself to be able to build some good solutions and good outcomes. Yeah.
Now,
so the roles kind of just changed a bit.
Sorry, Waldek, I'm going to steal this. So I think we with the transition to the cloud, I think Microsoft already said that was one of the biggest transitions within the history of the world. I think we are in a similar kind of situation now with AI and Copilot being representative of the AI, and then people are being afraid of losing their job. Is this a similar kind of a thing that people find probably a new way of being successful, or how do you see the future? Are we going to lose our job? So.
I don't think so. But I mean, that was a common thing, right? And it still is a conversation. Is Copilot or ChatGPT going to take my job as a marketing person or an email copywriter or something like that? But the response is and will be for some time. It won't take your job per se. People that know how to understand or know how to use it and understand how to use it in their particular role are going to be the people that excel, and their careers are going to just skyrocket. I think it was interesting. I had Caruana on my podcast a while ago, and she was talking about how organizations can and should start to think about now that Copilot is in play in an organization, how much time that's going to save people. What are they going to do with that extra time? Are they going to upskill? Are they going to transition to something else? Are they going to do more training? And it just has a flow-on impact, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I think we're finally, that was one of the discussion points with my brother, who's not in IT business, but in business, whatever. And this is finally we seem to have something which is truly increasing the productivity of the people. So, collaboration, intranets, portals, Microsoft Teams, did it actually increase the productivity of the people? Well, maybe, because I don't need to travel and fly to Australia to have this discussion, sure. But now we seem to finally have something fundamental which will actually just make us more efficient with the AI and with Copilot features and all of that.
I would like actually to caveat that, because a while back I read a very...
You are a skeptic.
Sorry?
You skeptic people.
No. I'd like to give kind of like another angle at it. So a while back I read an interesting book about idea of productivity, but then in the club or the information worker space, right? Because we very much like the concept was born at a time where there was conveyor belt factory and we would churn out that many products an hour, and you could improve that. You could shorten distance to the material, change things like how you hand things. You could improve efficiency, or by increasing efficiency, you would be able to churn out more things an hour. And we can apply the same notion to our work, where we think, and we think of things, we think of concepts, we build virtual things, like we do research, we basically use the knowledge that we get. And we kind of try to apply the same concept of efficiency to that, and that doesn't work. And yet we kind of look for how can we improve efficiency? Will this help us be more efficient or that? And it feels like we're trying to cut the corners on things like critical thinking and taking time and slowing down, which is required to come up with these creative things. So I wonder, will we finally arrive to the point where we say, hey, we have this very powerful thing that could be our assistant. Let that take the mundane part of our work. let it give us more room to think, and then let's take the time to think, as opposed to now we can take 5 more things onto our plate and just ship more tasks.
Yeah.
It's kind of defying the purpose. I don't know, Daniel, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very valid point. I mean, rather than the time saving, rather than using being inundated with more tasks because now you've got more time. That creativity side, could potentially be a really big area. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, are you guys, what impact is Copilot having on your day-to-day work? Okay.
No, I was being polite on asking, waiting for Waldek to potentially start. No. I think obviously. So right now, as said, I think it's more on us being a bit more efficient and being able to do things. But it is actually a really good perspective on to be able to be creative. It's not just about reading more emails or shipping more things or sitting in more meetings, which is a horrible thing to do. The more meetings is definitely a waste of time. And so having more time to think and plan and write your thoughts down makes a lot of sense if we can actually target the time for that.
I'll take slightly. I mean, I think I agree with that. Like, the way I use AI is like, for example, a part of my job is to write code. It's brilliant how I can get, and I think the caveat also that is it makes me very impatient, because now I am used to, like, in the past, like, imagine that I would have to write, let's say a bash script, and it's something that I do once every 3 months. So it's not top of mind. So I need to look up even the simplest things, like how do I make an array in bash and how do I iterate over the items in it. Whereas now I've got this AI assistant which is always there ready to help me. It's like, hey, like, I know what I want, so I don't need you to come up with an idea. I know what I want. I just know the exact syntax of it. So help me with the mundane, and let me, like, I can read through it, but I need the grammar. So help me with that. And that's really, really saving me a lot of time that I can stay more in a zone, because I can, like, the thought process around the thing that I want to build, it's top of mind. And all the things like, what's the syntax? What's the command? What's the function name? Which API do I need to? All of that is just basically offloaded to, I don't need to know that there is something that helps me, and that's going to be just fine. And as soon as I have that, I can adjust it. So I tend to use AI primarily in that space for things like summarizing meetings. Yes. Although, like, for example, for meetings, the thing that I tend to use more are, for example, chapters, where you can just click around. I'm interested in that part. I'm interested in that that part. Summaries are good to get the overview, but again, like, you want to have the details. And then, to your point about attending the meetings, to me, I see meeting as a tool that I've got in a toolbox. It has its place. It's definitely not a solution to everything, so I don't want to be on all of them. But when there is the right time and there's a truly need to meet, definitely. So
well, you mentioned a good point before, because I mean, the way that you use Copilot is going to be different than the way Vesa uses it, and different than the way I use it, and then different to somebody else. And I think that's part of obviously good user adoption and things like that. I mean, I've seen and spoken to organizations that have just given everybody a license and said, we've got Copilot, off you go. And then, it goes up, the usage goes up, and then all of a sudden, it's all right. Does it just summarize meetings? Is that all it does? I'm an email marketing person, or I'm a HR person. I need to write a policy. How do I use it? But if they're shown how to use the different Copilot experiences specific to their role, then that's obviously, obviously a big thing, and something that is getting a lot more traction now. I remember talking to Seb not that long ago. He doesn't code. He reckons he doesn't code anymore, but now all of a sudden he thinks he's this whiz bang coder because he's got Copilot writing all his code for him, right?
So this is an interesting point. Like, going back to what you said a minute ago. The other day, I had this thought occur to me where I realized how little time I spend to learn actually the tools that I use every day. And I mean, like, the example for me was VS Code. Like, really go through its features, the hotkeys, the latest options you've got. Right. And I think it's exactly it, right? Because the trap is the first impression you get is so simple. It's so intuitive. After all, AI is just a chat box. Like, how hard is it to chat? Then you get into kind of like, but how do you get it to do what you truly want it to do with the right format, the right language, the right tone, the right info, and so forth and so on? And that is where you kind of get this, curve that, well, to truly get the most of it, you need to kind of learn the mechanics. And whether that's, the right way to hold or to wield a hammer, or to prompt AI, or to use any other tool, you need to put in dedicated, deliberate time to learn it. So I wonder, Daniel, like, for you, like, how do you see that? How do you learn?
Well,
things?
you need
Because,
to. It needs to
cutting edge a lot, so you get to deal with change a lot. So what is your strategy and techniques to embrace things, to truly learn things?
Well, I think you've got to become, and the way I talk to organizations about it is that you've got to try and make it a habit, right? If you make it a habit, then you'll continually use it, and you continually, it's obviously really very, very new at the moment. Everybody's learning, but the more you learn and you use it and you test and you do that type of thing, I mean, making it become part of your daily routine, I think is something that helps a lot. The other thing is doing what you're doing with other people, both inside and outside your organization as well. There's people that are in your same role that have got different experiences. They might do some things a different way, but that whole community type of aspect is important, especially internally. People with similar, whether it's sharing prompts or, hey, look at this is how I've done this way, and that's
crowdsourcing ideas. Crowdsourcing ideas and sharing that. Now Rabia Williams is driving one of the really cool initiatives in Cloud Advocate space is about the prompts which she's been testing and using, and there is a nice centralized repo that's a one open community repo where people can go and find cool ideas. April Dunnan has a similar thing on the Power Platform prompt side, which is great as well, because again, people then can see that, oh, wait a minute, I never thought about I can ask these kind of things and it will actually give me results. So those are super valuable. We'll put it in the video notes, definitely, on the blog post notes.
You're talking about being creative earlier on, but I mean, I was using it yesterday to write some JSON for some column formatting in SharePoint lists, and it wasn't 100% exactly right, but
what I was about to ask. Did it work?
But rather than having to generate all that myself and everything like that, it got me sort of 95% of the way there, and allowed me to do other stuff. So. Yeah.
Now, something what we touched earlier this week with Anoop as well, because we're talking about the AI and AI power. Of course, everybody is now talking about on this particular topic, because we do have internal metrics of me saying AI, yes, done. Anyway, now we are talking about the AI and Copilot more as a chat, more as a capability, almost like a super sophisticated search. How are we seeing the future? What about the future of things? How fast will it actually transition to be something a bit more different, where we can actually apply and start changing behaviors and do stuff and ask it to perform tasks on behalf of us? Is that now 12 months, 24 months, 36 months? It's interesting to see. What's your thoughts on that?
There are actually two parts to what you want to ask. When do you think, Daniel,
How
we
would
will
you
be
know?
in the end, and where, when? Like so the where and the when.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I literally just saw Jeff Sieper just doing a little demo on stage on Copilot in SharePoint. So selecting a couple of documents, creating a custom Copilot in SharePoint, but then extending that. So rather than just question and answer type of thing, what's the price of this? really, really easily with a couple of custom connectors, being able to connect into an event registration table in Dataverse and then check for registrations, but then also fire off an email, right?
Yep.
So that's sort of taking things to the next level. And it's not just a conversational type of thing. It's actually almost like an agent. I think
Yep.
I've heard the term, building agents and connecting agents in Copilot Studio as well. So that's not far off at all. I mean, it's being done now. So I think the more people are aware of that and know it's not just this conversational text box thing, we can actually start to be, doing tasks and making it not just your assistant, but, an agent.
Yeah, and this reminds a historical lesson from Microsoft. Again, this always comes to mind. Whenever we released, this makes sense in a second. Whenever we released Windows Azure first time, we focused on PaaS services, and customers were like, I don't understand this because platform as a service was, never heard of a thing. And then Amazon AWS came and started offering IaaS, so infrastructure as a service, so PCs within a cloud, and they took over actually the whole, pretty much the market, until within Azure we started offering the same. And what I mean with that one is that Microsoft was super again forward-leaning, but customers were not ready on adapting that, because for them it was more logical. Just I'll put the computer from here to the cloud. Okay, makes sense, and then start thinking the next steps. Now, with the things what we've shown now in build, which is already going 3 steps forward on the Copilot and AI integration versus where our customers are, do we have the fear and do we have the concern, or what's your perspective on this, of Microsoft again pushing a bit too much, too fast, and throwing too many things before the ecosystem is ready to adapt?
Yes and no. I mean, I still know organizations that are still on file servers that aren't even ready for SharePoint Online, let's say. But there are organizations that are ready to go. I mean, they're well advanced in the AI space, and I think it's pretty well known that, through the Work Trend Index reports and things like that, business leaders are, know that this is an area that they need to go down. But knowing that capability is there, and it's, relatively straightforward to start getting things, and I think that's where the power really is. Once people see, I can connect to this data source, and I can connect to this and connect to that, and then have all that in a single user interface. I think, obviously demos quite well, and yes, it's good on stage and all that sort of stuff, but it is very practical, and there are a lot of business benefits there. Yes, there's a lot that aren't ready, but there are a lot that are, I think. I mean, ChatGPT, it's been out for quite some time, and there's a lot of businesses using that. So from that side of things, they're fairly well down the path.
True. Now, and like you said, there's so many different companies and everything else. It's been already wild when Harvard Business Review had the 10 articles about the AI, and none of those articles was about AI. It was about modernization, cloud transformation, and algorithms. And you're like, this is not, well, again, is AI now more, how do you see the hype as we're now bundling in everything under the AI umbrella? Is this something which is going to come as a big bang, Microsoft pushing, everybody has metrics on AI, and then within 12 to 18 months, we'll have a new chosen one? How do you see the...
Oh, well, yeah. I can't remember who I was speaking to now, but it's similar. That's a similar concept like with Viva, right? So Viva was the flavor of the month 12 months ago, and it's kind of, dissipated and died down. But I think I think this is going to be a little bit different. I think it's... in my opinion, not hype. I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think it's only going to, we can already see it changing at a rate of knots. Really, really quickly already. So I think people are starting to, crawl first, obviously. But once they start walking and running, I don't see it slowing down at all. And I posted something the other day. This is the worst that Copilot's ever going to be, right? And it's pretty good right now.
True. That's actually a good perspective. That's a pretty down-to-earth perspective, right? This is the worst what the Copilot has never been. And it will only get better and better. So for sure, as we're throwing more power and CPU power and everything else on the table. Now, something what we also talked about earlier this week with quite a few people, and also with Waldek, there was a interesting article which Waldek had run into related on prompt engineering. Is that the long-live prompt engineering? Waldek, do you want to do a quick intro on that one, and then?
Yeah, totally. So the premise is right that humans are notoriously poor in building prompts. Like, it's really hard for us to fathom, to understand how an LLM works and how to instruct it in a way that it's most optimized for the way it works. And
for computer, yes.
They've done a research where they took a prompt and they did some tests, like how effective is it? And then they use the ability to auto-tune, so have LLM build its own prompt and to test the outcome of that. Obviously, like, the outcomes of the auto-tuned prompts were way better. But then when you compare the two, it would have never occurred to you to write a prompt the way LLM wrote its own prompt. Like, there was a reference, like one, where there was a problem around math. It would say something like reference 9. And you're like, what is reference 9? Like, what the hell, right? And then there was another one where there was
you should not pick yours. Yeah.
Something else, right? And then there was a reference to Star Trek. Like, LLM built a reference around that to kind of instruct itself to behave in a scientific way by referencing Star Trek, right? So that was an interesting point that we brought, like that eventually we will arrive at a point where we will write our maybe intent, and then LLM will auto-tune itself, and then eventually it will come up with an answer, as opposed to offloading everything to us. Basically, I don't know if you ever had a chance to play with DALL-E.
Only briefly, yeah, not a lot.
But you might have seen, right, the really elaborate prompts that go into things.
Yeah.
You gotta have the ISO this and this lens and this light, and it's like, and you include a sentence of what is it exactly that you need, and like 5 paragraphs of set the lighting settings and styles and all of that. Like, that's insane, right? So that is kind of where the article went. Is like, no one should have to write this. Yeah, and then we will get, sooner than later, there will be tools that allow you to create optimal prompts by using LLM to build its own prompts, and you just focus on your own thing, as opposed to, like, don't become a prompt engineer, because that job is going away. Basically the same way in the past, we had punch cards. Nobody's punching cards anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it'll end up being a commodity like a lot of other things, I think, as well. But that's like DALL-E, a bit like Midjourney, right? I've seen some.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah,
elaborate prompts to feed into Midjourney to do that. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes in the information worker space. I mean, I can't see people writing. People aren't going to write a massively long, elaborate prompt into Copilot. I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Now, behind the scenes, obviously, Copilot, for anybody who doesn't know this, whenever you write something in Copilot, which is like one paragraph, behind the scenes, Microsoft 365 is actually decorating the system prompt to be hundreds and hundreds and thousands of lines. So whatever goes to the LLM, it's really far from what you actually already wrote on the Copilot chat. So it already has the grounding data, it has the references, it has the additional context and information who you are. So then the LLM is able to detect or provide the relevant content, which is what the grounding is. Something which we did talk about earlier this week as well is really the computer itself needs this grounding data. It needs to have the context. Again, I know. Daniel, your background, I know where you live. I can see the MVP black behind of you because I can see that. Nobody needs to give me that additional context. I know that information behind of you. So therefore, when you ask something, I have a lot of information about who you are, what is the context, what is the relationship between you and me. Computers wouldn't have that.
Well, but by that analogy, would you say that you're grounded, or would you say you are fine-tuned? You are not seeing it just now. You know about it already, so you can say
True.
You've been pre-trained to do specific thing, as opposed to I am generic purpose thing. That is the first time I'm seeing you. Oh, you've got an MVP thing there. I learned a thing. Now I know a thing about you, as opposed to I'm gonna spend a week to find anything and everything I can about you to like really become an expert on Daniel.
But that's kind of an interesting perspective related on why is it so hard for computers to understand what I want it to give me and answer me, because it wouldn't know unless we one way or another provide that additional context for it, and so that the algorithms and math behind the scenes is actually starting to pick up the references and understanding the bigger picture. So,
but do you think that's where the benefit is? I mean, with Copilot being, already knowing that information about
100%,
who you are,
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point. So if we think about ChatGPT, it does not have the same level of information who you are versus Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot. The more and this has obviously a lot of then implications and trickle effects, which is privacy and all of that stuff. But as you're using Microsoft 365 Copilot, it has the information who you are, what is your next meeting, what is the incoming emails, all of that stuff. That is the bigger picture of you. So it's able to draw okay, so this person works with these people and in here and based in Helsinki, like in my case or whatever. And then when I sent the prompt on, hey, blah, 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 I want you to do, here's the additional context, and then it does the mapping and drawing and math, which is really interesting.
That brings us to an interesting point, and then Daniel, I wonder what your opinion on that. Like, to really get the most out of LLMs, we need to give them access to info about us. And I think that's an illusion to say we will have one and it will know everything and it will be able to do everything. So in other words, we will need to stitch several services. One, able to book tickets, book a table for a dinner, order flowers, but also do personal things at work. Now, the thing is, when we start to automate them, like we start to connect these agents to each other. Who's going to decide how much info and when they should share with each other, not to leak anything more than they have to? Like, what do you think about that? Like, what are the caveats, limitations there?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, but I mean, we give away a lot of data now, right? So whether we're shopping online, internet banking, all of that sort of stuff, where we are giving away a lot of information. But yeah, in the context of work and that data, I mean, that's it'd be interesting to see how that actually would play out. Obviously we're contained inside of our tenant, but how that's going to work when you're connecting to external data sources and parties will be interesting.
Yeah. Now, because we only have a few minutes left from the timing perspective, we wanted to let's flip a bit about discussion. You are also a Microsoft 365 MVP, and I don't think you're a relatively new one. You've been around on MVP for quite a few years as well. What's the first year? Just double checking.
2001.
2001, so quite a few years. So a few months
ago. Since 2001.
Yeah, I'm a newbie. Yes.
Wow, I would have never thought.
Now, so what changed when you got to be an MVP? That's a few months back, so it's been a while. And how do you get to be an MVP? What's your experiences around the Microsoft MVP program?
Well, what's changed? Well, being part of the broader community, I think is a big change. I mean, being able to be involved with product groups and give feedback and other people in the community. I mean, it is a really good community, and just by being part of that, you're learning a lot. I mean, people sharing and caring and giving away a lot of information, doing a lot of content and things like that. Now, becoming an MVP or that road, I guess. I mean, the more community-based stuff that you can do, or things that you share or promote, or just making other people's lives easier, and helping them along the way, showing them how to utilize, well, in my case, M365 to better perform in their role, I think is one of the keys to becoming an MVP. But I mean, the community itself being part of that is very valuable.
So related on that one, because we still have a bit time, you also have a highly successful YouTube channel, and you're sharing your learnings and experiences with the YouTube channel. How do you see the value of doing that? Because you are technically providing consulting for free for other people.
I get that question quite a lot, right? But there's I guess my answer to that is that a lot of people won't necessarily go and do what I'm showing them, potentially. Mind you, I did have somebody tell me that they built what they thought was an $80,000 SharePoint intranet based on my videos from my YouTube channel, which I didn't get anything from. But but look, I think by giving away content helps you become seen as as an authority, I guess, in that space. I mean, I've got no issue giving away free content. I mean, I think it's the feedback I get, the comments I get, all that sort of stuff is very good, and that that keeps me going all the time to produce more content. I don't think it impacts. I mean, if we're talking business, I don't think it impacts that side of things at all.
It probably speeds up the business even, because then you have more known within the industry as the person who knows about the stuff, because you created the videos, right? So, and
that's right.
But it's an interesting dimension always. There's so many. So there are people who approach all of the community open source more like, well, I'm not going to share my precious things because these are the things which I want to make money out of. And then there's people who basically share everything what they have, so that the other people can build on top of that. And there's I would say that there's no absolute right or wrong on that. So everybody needs to find their own way of doing business and goes through their life. So and be successful and be happy, hopefully, within their path. So.
Yep, that's right.
Cool. Now, before we close up, typically we always ask what's happening this week, so people understand kind of how does the day-to-day work or life look for Daniel Anderson. What's happening this week or next week on your calendar?
This week, well, I've just come back from Sydney, so we've just kicked off. Just did a few workshops in Sydney with an organisation up there where. Looking at basically their whole tech stack, so looking at what they're using. There's some dynamic stuff in there, but there's a lot of workshopping with different users of the organisation. But I'm tackling a lot of purview, records management, sensitivity labels, retention labels at the moment as well. So there's a lot of that type of work, which is again Copilot seem to expedite this type of stuff now, the security compliance, because all of a sudden it's Copilot's fault that it's surfacing some information that's living in this site over there. But we all remember Delve when Delve came out, right? You went to the Delve page and oh no, I can see such and such is working on this document. Wow. Yeah, that's right. So I think that space is obviously moving quickly as well because of Copilot.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Now, Waldek, how does your week look like? This or next week?
Today is Thursday. Tomorrow is gonna be Friday. No, we've just done a new preview release. So last week we released new version of DevProxy with some new and exciting stuff, specifically around API Center. Now we've just released yesterday a new preview, which we are yet to document. It goes really so fast. Where we integrate, it's our first step towards integrating with a language model, right? So we want to use Olama and Phi3 locally to help you build better open API specs, because we know that Like, the money is in APIs. Like, that's the key for you to integrate anything and everything, including integrating your data and insights with AI. But to do that, you will need an open API spec that explains the surface and shapes of the API and operations that you've got. And many people don't have it. And these files can get really elaborate and big. So we offer a shortcut in Proxy where all you need to do is to call the API and we create the spec for you. But there are a few things like description of the endpoint that, like with a regex, you can only come so far. So the cool thing is that now we can use a model, like a natural language capable model, to create these things for us. So we are really excited about it. And if anything else, if you have a chance, give it a try. Tell us what you think, because I think that is like a great way to put LLM to practice beyond chatbox. So we will include some docs around that in the coming days. And again, we will be listening to what you all think.
Cool. And quickly recapping from my side before we close up, I will start a bit longer summer vacation within 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks, and that means that now it's a lot of planning and scheduling and processing advanced stuff and making sure that everything goes fine during that time. So I have not had more than 3 weeks off since I started in Microsoft, which is 17 years ago. So I will have now 5 weeks a break, which is pretty nice. But it is what I am. But that also means that there's a lot of things to get prepared for that 5 weeks, making sure that it will go smoothly and making sure that everything is executed as planned. So all good. Anyway, I guess that's it for today. So thank you, Daniel, for joining on the PnP Weekly. Really cool to have you on the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll get you back in, 100 episodes forward, and we'll typically recall and request people to come back and talk about what has happened. So, but
no worries.
Thank you for this
Look forward to it.
Really cool. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel, one more time on joining on the show. Really cool to have you here and catching up on things and good discussions. It's always good. We'll get you back on the show sooner or later. So definitely, as we always tend to do, we do have a few people who've been dropping by quite a few times in the show, so which is great. Always good to catch up on actually what's happening within the ecosystem and also getting more and new people in the show as well.
Absolutely. And our door is always open.
Yes.
Except when it isn't, because your door is closed now and mine is closed too. But other than that, it's always open.
That is true. That is so true. Cool. Let's jump on the weekly articles, and then we'll close up the show after that. I guess that's the model how we do this. Anyway, so
the energy is just gone.
Yes, it's Monday. So it's okay. So let's start with not that many new articles from Microsoft this week. It goes up and down. Obviously, now we are a few weeks after the build, so it's a bit slowing down towards summer period within the Northern Hemisphere. So first of all, on the SharePoint side, there was again the monthly update on May 2024 update on what's actually coming and what's being announced. Again, SharePoint 1 is the one which is not just focused on SharePoint, it also focused on all of the Viva connection and related Microsoft Viva and related technologies like Viva OneDrive, all of that stuff in a one centralized thing. A lot of new announcements. We did a pretty recent video together with Caitlin, it's me and Caitlin on the video, on the SharePoint video pages, and a few other things. So a lot of excellent new stuff rolling out across the stack, and also the Microsoft Graph Pages API is out. And of course, we're referencing a lot of videos, great assets from the build 2024 as well from here. Cool. On the other news, we also published the May 2024 version of the most widely used SharePoint framework ISVs from the store. So the SharePoint framework is incredibly widely used across the world. Just a fraction amount it actually is used from the store. So majority of SharePoint framework is actually used with a LOB or direct sales channel. But we've been doing this monthly summary on the store usage for quite a long time, where we're always listing the latest updates and what's happening, and also the top 10 ISVs or top 10 applications. We used to do applications, now we're doing ISVs. It's more clear to call out different ISVs rather than few which are dominating on the chart within the store. But a lot of cool stuff on the store as well for SPFX across the stack. Now, on the developer side, otherwise, use Fluid DevTools to debug your web app. So on the Fluid framework, there are new dev tools available, which will help you to get started on debugging those Fluid components and Fluid-powered solutions, which is great, making it easier to do debugging directly in the Visual Studio Code. I think this is a great direction that we're getting more and more tooling.
I think that is in Chrome or in Edge.
That's in Chrome. That is actually, you're 100% correct. That is in Chrome. That's my bad.
It looks
talking
like
too fast.
For what it's worth, it looks definitely like I looked twice. Like, is it VS Code or is it browser? And you look at the top three, like, yeah, the browser. Okay, this is Edge.
Yes, it is indeed Edge. That's a good point. But you actually can able to access the information and the container and the memory of the Fluid components more efficiently. So you're able to debug what is actually stored and what's happening within the full stack, how it's actually working, which is really cool. Awesome stuff. It's always nice to have more development tooling and support for developers to make stuff happen, which is great. Then there was a blog post related to Microsoft 365 certification, validates app compliance through annual pen testing. And this is really about the fact that we do have this Microsoft 365 certifications for application and apps, which we have in the store. And that certification basically is a free I think it's still free. I think it's free. Crossing fingers that I'm not lying. It has been free for the ISVs and providers, but then the main idea here is that then those application has been tested and validated more throughout because they're certified by Microsoft, because they do much more detailed testing on those applications. I think it's free. Is it free? I think it's free.
I don't know.
Free. Yeah. Yep. There we go. Penta. Oh, okay. Cool. Yep. So that is free. At least the penetration testing is free. But that's, yeah. So getting the certification free has been free, and I think it's still free, but I'm not. Have I said free already enough time? Free.
Yeah, I think it's if you say it like 3 more times, it's going to be really free.
Yes, cool. On the Power Platform side, not massive amount of news here, but they are actually following up on the same model as other areas which they are starting to do this monthly summaries, which are great. So what's new in the May 2024 for Power Apps, and that's listing all of the different capabilities which are available and the insights of those capabilities. I really like this because then it's a great summary on all of the different features and capabilities which are rolling out. The same actually is available for Power Automate, which is great. So listing or Power Automate for desktop. Yes. So listing all of the different capabilities which are available in there. They also had a blog post related on develop tenant environment strategy to adapt Power Platform at scale. So basically, understanding the environmental types, what they are, and how would we then transition, and what is the life cycle of those solutions, and how do we make that automate the CDCI and all of that to happen within the tenants as well. It's a white paper which is now available, which is good. Now, on the blog post side, Paul Pollack had a blog post related on enabling an existing app, new features in Microsoft Toolkit for Copilot plugins. Recapping, what is Copilot plugin in this context? Putting you on a spot.
New features in Teams looking for Copilot plugins. Yes. So basically, the idea is that Copilot out of the box has access to the content that is stored within Microsoft 365. But if you want to truly get the value out of it, you want it to be able to help you to be able to answer questions regarding anything you've got in your work, and that also means other apps external to Microsoft 365. Hence, the plugins being the way how you can give Copilot access to data stored within those apps. So this is just one way in which you can kind of extend its access to the data and insights in your org for it to be able to be more helpful. Yep,
absolutely. Really cool. And we see more and more people actually testing out and building capabilities for Copilot, which is great. Most of those are still in preview, those experiences and extensibility options, but still it's good to be aware what is the art of possible. Now, Mark D. Anderson had a blog post related on enabling global navigation in a SharePoint home site, and this is walking through the different scenarios. How do you do that? How does it reflect why something can actually take a bit longer than other ones, and he's basically complaining a bit about certain bugs within the system. And of course, it's good to be aware of these things as well.
Constructive product feedback.
Correct. And this has been, of course, shared with Microsoft as well, which is great. If we find issues, let's make sure that we share them. And actually, I'm all for full transparency. So if we find an issue, I want that to be exposed, because then the other people, when they find an issue, then they can actually be aware of, hey, wait a minute, somebody else already had the same issue. Well, that means that that Microsoft is most likely working on this one. There's actually multiple different ways of approaching that kind of an approach, because some people tend to be like, no, we want to take it offline with the person who found the issue. But then if it's not a one-time issue, if other people run into it, how would they know that it's a more
then everybody will be taking it offline, and then the person in charge will have a bunch of calls and emails to answer about the same thing, right?
Yes, which is not productive. So which is precisely the reason why I tend to always ask people to, for example, in the developer topics, create an issue in the issue list so that other people will know that there's an issue already identified by other people. So it's not just a hiccup within a specific tenant, it's more broadly available, which is good. Now, Marcus Miller had a blog post on using SharePoint Framework to assign delegated scope permissions to a site. So this is really about having a dynamic application to be able to target dedicated permissions in a site level.
Yeah, because alternative is what? You would do it in PowerShell, or you've got specialized, like there is no UI for this,
yes, there
right?
is no UI available.
So you would do it with code, you would do it with PowerShell, with a script, with console, with whatever else you would build, or an alternative approach to have a UI, which you would deploy to a specially designated site available only to people who should have the access to it. And then from there, you kind of get the UI and you manage that in a visual way.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. Now, there was also a blog post from Todd Clint around how to use PowerShell 7 and PnP PowerShell when you cannot install software. That's a really interesting thing. So this actually came as a question for him. If I'm not allowed to install PowerShell 7, how would I actually then start using PnP PowerShell and these things? Which then he was able to figure out and show how the steps to be able to make things happen.
Couldn't you use it in the Cloud Shell?
You should
like
be
on
able
Azure,
to use
you've got Cloud Shell. I think even these days on Microsoft 365, in the admin side, you have Cloud Shell enabled too.
Yep, that is true. That is true. That is true. Good. And then Kasper Larsen had a blog post related on term store and search index, a rocky relationship since 2013.
That one was really interesting. I wouldn't expect that.
Yes. So how would you use, or how would you index? How long you'll have to wait until search engines have pick up the chains on a term within the term store?
Indefinitely. It turns out indefinitely online, until you update the items that it will be updated for each item by itself. Basically.
Yes. So the which kind of makes sense, because the term store is a value somewhere else, and then there could be hundreds of thousands of sites which are using that term, and when you update the term in here, it does not reflect immediately the values. There's no immediate value reference and update on the list item.
It's not a reference, it's a copy of the value you pick.
Correct.
Basically,
and now
item, right?
when you open up the site and when you start editing that, then that will be reflected and the change will be applied, and therefore, so it's interesting. So, but good blog post also to be aware how things are actually working, rather than being kind of I think it should be working in a certain way, and it isn't. So
and then it doesn't. Yeah, and there's also another thing that plays into this is the fact that in SharePoint Online, there's no ability for you to request full recrawl of everything.
Yeah. True. That is true.
So you really need to think through about, if you're doing that, if you use taxonomy and you are in this case, you need to, it takes deliberate effort to do it right.
Yep, absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
There's more to it than just a change.
Yes, which is unfortunately quite often the case in IT. So good. Then we had a blog post from Laura Rogers related on SharePoint command bar customization for power users, and that's really on that command bar, which we can see over there. So how could we modify that command bar with additional buttons and all of that? And you can actually do that using the advanced mode with JSON, which enables that to be then kind of an end user capability. Is that code? Well, it's JSON.
Power user. I would say this is borders on like editing advanced Excel formulas. It's not as elaborate as doing a list view or full or view formatting, but it's definitely like you gotta know what you want to do.
But what's actually really cool about here, as an example, you are able to hide the new button or the manage forms buttons from the top menu, and that's actually something which comes up quite often. How would I able to do that? Now, if the user has admin rights to the list, they can go and unhide it or make it again visible. But it's because it's
exactly.
not, it's not a security layer.
As security, right? This is about optimizing the user experience for scenario, and this I think a great example for when you want to build app on top of a list. Because, like, to tell you the truth, like lists are really great and easy way to build simple apps for tracking things. Perfect, right? And then if you can optimize the UI by removing things that aren't relevant to the users of the app, perfect.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Good. Now, moving on to the video section, Shane Young had a updated or new video related on Power Apps variable, all 5 types.
All
types,
five
as
of them.
you can see. Yeah, all 5 of them. So put a ring on it.
5 types, not five variables. It's 5 types.
True. Yes, 5 types. Yes. Then Stefan van Roel had a video related on client authentication with certificates authentication shorts, and this is actually really good. It's a 1.5 minutes long video which is explaining how application credentials are actually working. So which is really good. These are exactly the stuff what we should have, which are not too long. I need to understand. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
And
because
it is really important, and you need to do it right.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. Now, we also had a video from Steve Corey around SharePoint versioning updates. So we do have an update available for the SharePoint versioning, which can be adjusted. And from his perspective, it's finally fixed. So it works properly. Some highly subjective statement. I guess it's never been broken as such, but now it's even better. So
well, apparently we met his expectations,
correct.
Right? So I would say one coin into our piggy bank.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you, Steve, on explaining what are those updates. Also, Darrell and Daniel had a new episode on the Microsoft 365 Message Center show, and on Copilot catch-up, recall, SharePoint text supercharged, on all of that. Do we want to talk about the recall? Let's not talk about the recall.
It's an interesting feature, if anything else. And like me becoming older and older every day, if anything else, I would find it very, very interesting to see like how easily I can find things. Because like if anything else, I don't organize my files. My files are just all in one folder. Maybe I have 2 folders. Everything else just goes into one pile of stuff, and I don't organize it. So I know where it is because it's got to be in that one place. But where is it exactly? So 1 and 2. What if the file isn't mine?
Yep, absolutely.
In an org of 20 people, 30 people, I think it's relatively easy to find things.
Yep.
And Microsoft, we're bigger than that, and every team has their own, and every person has their own way to organize things and to work, because that's the way they work, right? And then they get to work with me, and I might have different preference. So finding things back isn't trivial in our scale.
Sure.
So being able to have something, to have like an assistant that does that in a compliant and secure way, I would be very interested to give it a try.
Yep, definitely agree on that. And also we need to make sure that security and privacy and all of that will be properly compliant with all of the rules within the world. Now, Andrew Connell had a pretty recent video going live on this Monday morning. Should your next Microsoft 365 app be an SPFX web part, a single page application, or a Teams app? So, and I think this is actually a bit more questions on the video, but these are common questions what he's getting into, and he's addressing them as and talking them through so that people can actually learn from his perspectives on the Microsoft 365 development. Specifically on this question, I think it was, well, it depends. So
when doesn't it depend, right?
Always it depends. Now, Daniel Anderson, who was our visitor, our guest for this week, he had has a brilliant YouTube channel, and he had a video related on SharePoint site columns versus list columns. Super important thing to know and understand the difference, what they are, and how you can actually manage them. There's a lot of other differences how this actually works, and what would be the impact if you choose one either or another. So it's not just I'll just figure it out afterwards. Well, not necessarily. It's not necessarily that easy. So
yeah,
it's good to think this through.
Again, it depends, right?
It depends. That is true. Also, Sutharsan had 2 different videos related on SPFX integration with PnP React controls. So animated dialogue is one thing, and also the second thing was about file pickers and file icon control. The PnP SPFX controls definitely a thing to double check. There's a lot of community open source provided controls here, and we're getting new and new contributions here as well all the time. So making it super easy to build engaging solutions within the Microsoft 365. And then the final video was from Giuliano De Luca, how to build your own Copilot with Copilot Studio, Microsoft Copilot Studio. So creating custom Copilot and how does it actually get started and do that. Really something what people are looking into right now to understand how this actually works. But that's it for the videos. Let me flip us back in here to a double checking mode. Thank you, Daniel, one more time on joining on the show. That was really cool on joining that. We went through already what's happening from a week perspective last week already, because we recorded Daniel a few days before.
So. Correct. So now we can check, like, hey, how far are we with regards to our plan and our intentions?
Yes. I can openly say that at this moment of a time, I'm just catching up and cleaning and prepping, cleaning my vacation. So it's just good to start that early on. So, social media scheduling, making sure that community calls, all of that is executed properly, even though I'm away. And
right, because you're going to be away for 8 months, right?
Yeah. Sure. Not 8 months. So definitely not 8 months, but a while. So cool. Anyway, I guess that's it for this week's episode. We will do one more episode. 254 will be the last episode of this season, and then we'll break for a summer break, and we'll be back somewhere in, I guess, around mid-August, about, I guess, something like that. Whenever we will be both back.
So, correct. You will hear from us.
Yes.
Don't call us. We'll call you.
Yes, definitely. But thanks everybody for watching and listening. Please use hashtag PnP Weekly so we can find out the awesome things that people are creating and doing. And if you have suggestions, who would you like to see as a visitor, or if you'd be like, hey, I want to be a visitor in that show, reach out. We'll get you scheduled, or we'll see what we can do related on your request and approach. But other than that, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. We'll be back within a week.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Good reference. Cheers. Bye-bye.